"Your husband bought me a new house," the girlfriend bragged, waving the keys in the wife's face. But when the wife calmly pulled out a stack of documents and smiled, the girlfriend's face went pale. Before we reveal what happens next, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. And to my loyal family who've been rocking with us, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. The afternoon sun hung heavy over the compound as Emily knelt in her garden, her hands deep in the red earth. Sweat beaded on her forehead. But she didn't stop. She never stopped. For 12 years, she had tended this home, raised 4 children within these walls, and endured whispers that followed her husband like shadows through the city. David was a handsome man, tall, smoothing, with a smile that could charm money from a miser's pocket. But Emily had learned long ago that charm without character was just poison wrapped in pretty paper. Still, she had stayed for the children, for the vows she made before the elders, for the inheritance her father left her, tied to this land, these walls, this life. She was pulling weeds from around the pepper plants when she heard the car. A sleek black SUV rolled through the compound gates, music thumping from the speakers. Emily's stomach tightened. She knew that car. Everyone in the city knew that car. It belonged to Avery. Emily stood slowly, brushing dirt from her jeans trouser. She watched as the SUV parked directly in front of her door, not to the side, not respectfully, but right in the center, as if the compound belonged to the visitor. The engine cut off, the music died, and then she emerged. Avery stepped out like she was walking a fashion runway. Her hair was freshly braided with expensive attachments that gleamed in the sunlight. Gold jewelry dripped from her neck, wrists, and ears. Her dress, a tight bright black gown, number that cost more than what Emily spent on groceries in 3 months, hugged every curve. Designer sunglasses perched on her nose. She looked around the compound with a smirk, her glossy lips curling in satisfaction. And then David stepped out from the driver's seat. Emily's heart didn't race. It didn't break anymore. It had cracked so many times over the years that it had learned to simply exist. She watched her husband adjust his watch, the gold one she'd never seen before, and walk around the car to stand beside Avery. He didn't look at Emily. He never did when Avery was around. "Emily," Avery's voice rang out, sweet as poisoned honey. "Good afternoon. I hope we're not disturbing you." Emily said nothing. She simply waited, her face calm, her hands folded in front of her. Avery sauntered forward, her heels clicking against the concrete. David followed a step behind, his face unreadable. When they reached the veranda, Avery stopped, tilted her head, and smiled like a cat that had just cornered a mouse. "I came to share some wonderful news with you," Avery said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "David and I wanted you to be the first to know." Emily's eyes flicked to her husband. He looked away. Avery pulled a set of keys from her designer handbag and dangled them in the air. The metal caught the sunlight, glinting mockingly. "Your husband bought me a house," she announced, her voice rising with theatrical excitement. "Not just any house. Oh, a mansion. 4 stories, swimming pool, modern kitchen, everything. It's in the new estate, you know, where all the big people are moving to." She stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming, her smile sharp. David said, "I deserve to live like a queen, and you know what? He's right." She gestured dismissively at Emily's compound. The modest home with its fading paint. The garden Emily had built with her own hands. The children's toys scattered near the door. "You can stay here in this old place. I'm sure it has sentimental value." The words hung in the air like smoke. Somewhere in the distance, a chicken clucked. A neighbor's radio played high-eve music. Life continued, indifferent to the cruelty unfolding in Emily's compound. Emily looked at the keys. Then at Avery. Then at David, who still refused to meet her eyes. And then she smiled. It wasn't a bitter smile. It wasn't a broken smile. It was the smile of a woman who had been counting cards while everyone else thought she was just sitting at the table. "How wonderful for you both," Emily said softly. Avery blinked, clearly expecting tears, shouting drama. She recovered quickly, tossing her braids over her shoulder. "I knew you'd understand. After all, a woman must know her place, right?" She laughed, a high, grating sound. "David, baby, we should go. I want to show you the bedroom again." She winked dramatically. David cleared his throat, uncomfortable, but silent. He turned to leave, and Avery followed, her hips swaying exaggeratedly. Emily watched them climb back into the SUV, watched them drive away, music blasting, dust rising in their wake. She stood there until the sound of the engine faded completely, until the compound was quiet again, except for the birds and the wind. Then she walked into her bedroom. The room was simple. A bed, a wardrobe, a wooden table with a cracked mirror. But Emily didn't go to any of those places. She knelt beside the bed and reached underneath her fingers, finding the old metal box she had hidden there 5 months ago. She pulled it out and set it on the bed. The lock was rusted, but strong. She retrieved the key from inside her bra, the one place David would never dare look, and opened it. Inside were documents, stacks of them, land deeds, property registrations, transfer records, legal letters, and at the very top, a business card for Mr. Alexander Manson, attorney at law. Emily picked up the card, running her thumb over the embossed letters. Then she reached for her phone. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. A storm was coming. Everyone could feel it, but only Emily knew when it would strike. Emily sat on the edge of her bed. The documents spread before her like pieces of a puzzle she'd been solving in silence for months. Her fingers traced the faded ink on the oldest deed, the one signed by her father, Mr. Marcus, 35 years ago. She remembered that day. She'd been only 12 years old, sitting beside him as his lawyer wrote out the documents. Emily, her father had said, his voice deep and certain, this land is yours. These 15 acres, no man can take what your ancestors have given you. Remember that. She'd nodded, not fully understanding. But her father had understood. He'd seen too many women lose everything to husbands who smiled sweetly before signing away their wives' inheritance. So, he'd done something unusual. He'd registered the land in Emily's maiden name, witnessed by 7 elders, stamped by the government untouchable. When Emily married David 12 years ago, she'd been young and in love. David had been charming, ambitious, full of dreams. He'd talked about building an empire together, about making her father proud, and foolishly trustingly, she'd let him help manage the properties. Just sign here, darling, he'd said one evening, sliding papers across the dinner table. It's for tax purposes. Makes everything easier if we consolidate the assets. She'd signed, and signed, and signed. Whatever David put in front of her, she'd trusted him with. It wasn't until 8 months ago that she discovered the truth. Emily closed her eyes, remembering that terrible morning. She'd gone to the land registry office to update her contact information, something routine. The clerk had looked confused when she'd introduced herself as the owner of the properties. Madam, according to our records, these properties were transferred to Mr. David 5 years ago. See, he turned the computer screen toward her. Emily's world had tilted. Transferred. I never authorized any transfer. The clerk had shrugged sympathetically. The signatures are here, madam. You and your husband provided marriage certificates, affidavit, everything needed. She'd stumbled out of that office, her legs weak, her mind racing. That evening, she'd searched David's study while he was out with Avery. Hidden in a locked drawer, the key taped under his desk, she'd found copies of everything. Transfer deeds, sale agreements for 2 properties he'd already sold, and a promise letter to Avery dated 5 months prior. My queen, I'm building you a palace. The house will be ready by December. You'll never want for anything. Emily had photographed everything with trembling hands. Then she'd called the one person she knew could help, Mr. Alexander Manson, a lawyer who'd worked with her father years ago. Mr. Alexander had reviewed everything and smiled. Emily, your husband made one critical mistake. He forged your signature on the transfer documents, but he couldn't erase the original deeds. The land was registered as your premarital property, witnessed by elders who are still alive. Any transfer without your genuine consent with legal representation present is void. Can we fix this? She'd whispered. We can do better than fix it, Mr. Alexander had said. We can take everything back. But you need to be patient, gather evidence, let him think he's won, and when the time is right, we strike. So Emily had waited, watched, collected bank statements showing David's spending on Avery, recorded conversations where he bragged about his properties, built an airtight case while playing the role of the quiet, defeated wife. Now 3 months later, everything was ready. Emily picked up her phone and dialed Mr. Alexander's number. He answered on the second ring. Mrs. Emily, I've been expecting your call. He gave her one of my houses, Emily said quietly. She came here today to mock me with the keys. Perfect, Mr. Alexander said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. That's the evidence we needed. He's transferred property to a third party using forged documents. That's fraud, Emily. Criminal fraud. What do we do now? Tomorrow morning, we file an injunction. I'll get court orders to freeze all the properties. Then we serve him papers at his office publicly so there's no room for negotiation. And Mrs. Emily, he paused, bring those original deeds your father left you. We're going to need them. Emily exhaled slowly. How long will this take? With the evidence you've gathered, 3 weeks, maybe 4. But Emily, you need to understand. Once we start this, there's no going back. Your marriage is over. She looked around the bedroom she'd slept in for 15 years. At the wardrobe holding clothes she'd mended over and over because David spent his money elsewhere. At the children's photographs on the wall. Beautiful children who deserved to see their mother stand up for herself. Mr. Alexander, she said, her voice steady. My marriage ended the day he chose to steal from me. I'm just making it official. Then we begin tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp. Bring everything. After she hung up, Emily packed the documents carefully back into the metal box. She locked it, hid the key, and lay down on her bed. Tomorrow, the storm would begin. But tonight, for the first time in months, Emily slept peacefully. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. The ancestors were watching, and they were pleased. Avery's housewarming party was everything she dreamed of, and more. The mansion on Magnolia Street glittered with lights strung across the sprawling compound. A DJ spun the latest Afrobeats hits while guests danced on the marble patio. Tables overflowed with jollof rice, grilled chicken, fried fish, and enough champagne to float a boat. Avery had spared no expense. After all, this was her moment, her victory. She stood on the grand staircase in a gold sequin dress, holding a microphone, her face glowing with triumph. Below her, over 100 guests, friends, family, business associates, and a few of Emily's distant relatives she'd invited specifically to rub salt in the wound, looked up, waiting. "Thank you all for coming." Avery's voice boomed through the speakers. "Today is special because it represents what happens when a man truly values a woman. When he sees her worth and rewards her accordingly." Cheers erupted. Someone whistled. David stood near the bar, grinning, soaking in the attention like a lizard in the sun. "This house," Avery continued, gesturing dramatically at the chandelier above her, "is proof that good things come to those who know their worth. Some women settle, some women accept crumbs, but me." She paused, for effect. "I demanded the whole cake." Laughter rippled through the crowd. A few women clapped enthusiastically. Others exchanged uncomfortable glances, thinking of Emily, David's legal wife, sitting at home while this spectacle unfolded. Avery raised her champagne glass. "To David, my king, my provider, my everything, and to this beautiful house, my house." "To Avery," the crowd chanted, glasses raised. David walked up the stairs and kissed Avery publicly and passionately. Phones came out, photos were snapped, videos recorded. Within minutes, the party was trending on social media. Avery's new house #blessed and favored king and queen. What none of them noticed was the figure standing quietly at the compound gate. Emily had arrived. She wore a simple but elegant navy blue dress, her hair wrapped in a cream gel, no jewelry except her late mother's gold earrings, no makeup except a touch of lipstick. She carried a large brown envelope under her arm. The security guard at the gate recognized her immediately, his eyes widened. "Madam Emily, let me in," Emily said calmly. He hesitated, then stepped aside. What was he supposed to do? This woman had been David's wife for 15 years. Who was he to stop her? Emily walked up the long driveway, her footsteps steady. The music got louder, the laughter more raucous. She reached the patio just as Avery descended the staircase, still holding her microphone, still basking in her moment. Then someone saw her. "Is that Emily?" The music didn't stop, but conversations did. Heads turned. Whispers spread like wildfire. Avery froze mid-step, her smile faltering. David's face went pale. Emily walked through the parting crowd, her eyes fixed on Avery. When she reached the center of the patio, she stopped. The DJ, sensing the tension, lowered the music. The sudden quiet was deafening. Avery recovered first, forcing a laugh. Well, look who decided to show up." She gestured to the crowd. "Everyone, you know, Mrs. Emily, right? David's first wife." The way she said first dripped with mockery. Emily didn't react. She simply stood there, envelope in hand, looking around at the guests of the house at the opulence purchased with stolen wealth. "Ah, did you come to congratulate me?" Avery pressed, her confidence returning with the crowd's attention. "It's okay, you know. No hard feelings. David's has more than enough love to go." "This house doesn't belong to David," Emily said quietly. The patio went silent. Avery laughed nervously. "Excuse me, this house," Emily repeated, her voice steady and clear. "Doesn't belong to David. It never did." David pushed through the crowd. "Emily, what are you doing here? You're embarrassing yourself. Go home, Emily." For the first time in 12 years, David saw something in her eyes that made him step back. Not anger, not hurt, something far more dangerous. Certainty. "I am home," Emily said softly. She opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of documents. "This house was built on land that belonged to my father. Land that was registered in my maiden name 35 years ago. Land you forged my signature to steal." She held up the first document, a land deed yellowed with age, bearing official stamps and witness signatures. "And I'm here," Emily continued, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "To take it back." Avery's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. The silence stretched like a tightrope, ready to snap. All eyes were on Emily as she stood in the center of Avery's party, documents in hand, her face calm as still water. David found his voice first. "Emily, stop this nonsense. You're drunk or confused, or I'm neither," Emily interrupted. She turned to address the crowd directly. "My father, Mr. Marcus, left me 12 acres of land when he passed. This house sits on one of those acres. The deed has been in my name since I was 12 years old." She held up the document higher so everyone could see the official stamps, the faded signatures, the witness marks from elders. 3 years ago, my husband forged my signature on transfer documents. He told me I was signing taxpayers. Instead, he was stealing my inheritance. He since sold 2 properties and gave this one, she gestured around the mansion, to his girlfriend. Murmurs erupted. Guests pulled out their phones, some recording, others texting furiously. This was better than any Hollywood movie. Avery's face had gone from confident to confused to terrified in the span of 30 seconds. David, her voice cracked. You said this was your house. You said you bought it with your money. David's jaw clenched. Emily, we can discuss this privately. No, Emily's voice cut through his plea like a knife. We're done discussing things privately. We're done with you making decisions about my property behind closed doors. A car pulled up to the compound gate. Mr. Alexander Manson stepped out, briefcase in hand, followed by 2 police officers in uniform. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. As the lawyer walked through, he stood beside Emily, opened his briefcase, and pulled out more documents. Good evening, everyone, Mr. Alexander Manson said pleasantly as if he'd simply come for the party. I'm Mr. Alexander Manson, Mrs. Emily Attorney. I apologize for interrupting the festivities, but we have legal business to attend to. He turned to David. I'm here to inform you that as of 3 p.m. today, the court has issued an injunction freezing all properties originally registered to Miss Emily, now Mrs. Emily. This includes the 12 acres of land and all structures built upon them. David's face went from pale to gray. You can't do this. Actually, we can and we have. Mr. Alexander Manson handed him a document. This is your copy of the court order. You'll also find that any transfers made without Mrs. Emily genuine legal consent, meaning with her lawyer present and her full understanding of what she was signing, are null and void. Avery stumbled backward, grabbing the staircase railing for support. Wait. This is a mistake. David gave me this house. It's mine. He signed the papers. Mr. Alexander Manson turned to her with professional sympathy. Miss, I'm afraid Mr. David never had legal authority to transfer this property. The land belongs exclusively to Mrs. Emily as premarital inheritance. Under U.S. law, that means my husband stole from me and gave away what wasn't his to give. Emily finished quietly. One of the police officers stepped forward. Miss Avery, Mr. David, you are hereby ordered to vacate these premises within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in forced eviction and criminal charges for trespassing. The crowd erupted. Phones were everywhere now, capturing every moment. Tomorrow, this would be the talk of every social media platform, every WhatsApp group, every office gossip session across the city. Avery turned on David, fury replacing shock. You lied to me. You told me you bought this house. You said it was your money, your success. She shoved him hard. I left my job for you. I bragged to everyone that my man was rich. And all this time, her voice broke. All this time, I was living in his wife's house. David tried to grab her arm. Baby, listen, I can explain. Don't touch me, Avery screamed. Mascara ran down her face. Her gold dress suddenly looked cheap under the harsh truth. You made me a thief. You made me look like a fool. Emily watched the scene unfold with no satisfaction, no joy, just exhaustion. She turned to Mr. Alexander Manson. I want to go home. Of course, the officers will ensure they vacate peacefully. He looked at David. Mr. David, expect to receive divorce papers and a lawsuit for fraud within the week. I'd suggest you hire a very good lawyer. As Emily walked back through the crowd toward the gate, people stepped aside, some with respect, others with shame for doubting her. One of her distant cousins, a woman who'd laughed at Avery's toast earlier, reached out. Emily, I didn't know. I swear. Emily kept walking. She didn't need apologies from people who celebrated her humiliation. Behind her, Avery's sobs mixed with David's desperate explanations. The party was over. The music had stopped. Guests were already leaving, eager to spread the news. Emily climbed into Mr. Alexander's car, and as they drove away, she allowed herself one look back at the mansion. Her mansion glittering against the night sky. 48 hours. And then she'd decide what to do with it. Maybe sell it. Maybe rent it out. Maybe turn it into something useful. A shelter for women perhaps. Women who'd been lied to and stolen from, just like her. The ancestors were smiling tonight. By morning, the video had gone viral. Someone at the party, multiple someones actually, had recorded everything. Emily's calm confrontation, the lawyer's arrival, Avery's breakdown, David's desperate stammering. Within 12 hours, the footage was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, even WhatsApp status updates from people who hadn't been within a mile of the party. The hashtags were merciless. Avery evicted, stolen house, Emily's revenge, #karma is real. David woke up on Avery's couch. She'd kicked him out of the bedroom to 47 missed calls and hundreds of notifications. His business partners, his family, friends, everyone wanted answers, and none of them was sympathetic. His phone rang again. His younger brother, Emmanuel. Guy, what is this rubbish I'm seeing online? Emmanuel's voice was angry. You stole from your wife, Emily, of all people, the woman who fed us when Mama was sick, the one who paid my school fees that year. You were broke. David rubbed his face. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You forged her signature and gave her property to your side chick. Emmanuel's voice cracked with fury. Do you know Mama is crying? The whole city is talking. Our family name is ruined because of your greed. I was going to pay her back. Pay her back, David. That was her inheritance, her father's land. You can't just pay back something like that. Emmanuel's breathing was heavy. Don't call me again until you fix this and stay away from Mama's house. She doesn't want to see you. The line went dead. David dropped the phone and buried his face in his hands around him. The mansion that had felt like victory yesterday now felt like a prison. In 24 hours, he'd be on the street. He had nowhere to go. His apartment, the one he'd shared with Emily before getting successful, that was hers, too. Built on her land. Everything was hers. He'd built his entire empire on her foundation and never even realized he was standing on borrowed ground. From the bedroom, he heard Avery on the phone, her voice shrill. I don't care what you think, Joy. I was deceived. No, I'm not stupid. He told me. You know what? Forget you. Forget all of you. She emerged moments later, eyes swollen, makeup smeared. She looked at David with pure hatred. Get out, David. Please get out. She threw a shoe at him. It hit the wall beside his head. I have family calling me a homewrecker. My friends are posting laughing emojis under my pictures. I lost my job, David. My boss said I'm an embarrassment to the company's values. Her voice broke. I have nothing because I trusted you. We can figure this out. There is no we. Avery screamed. There never was. I was just the stupid girl who believed a liar. She grabbed his shirt and bags. He'd brought a few things over the past weeks and threw them at the door. You have 1 hour to leave before I call those police officers are back. David gathered his things and left. He had no fight left in him. He drove aimlessly through the city, past businesses where he'd once been welcomed, past bars where friends would wave him over. Now those same people looked away when they saw him. Some pointed and whispered. One former friend actually laughed and shouted, "Thief," as David passed. By afternoon, his company's board of directors had called an emergency meeting. They didn't waste time. David, given the current situation and the negative publicity, we think it's best if you step down effective immediately. You're firing me. I built this company. With whose money? One board member asked coldly. From what we're seeing online, you built everything with your wife's assets. Assets you stole. We can't have that kind of leadership. David was escorted out of his own office by security. His nameplate was already being removed from the door. By evening, he sat in a cheap motel room staring at his phone. His social media accounts were a wasteland of insults and mockery. Old friends had unfriended him. Business contacts blocked him. Even distant relatives were posting things like, I always knew there was something wrong with that boy. There was one message that stood out, though, from Emily. It was simple. The divorce papers will be served Monday. Don't contest them. It's over, David. You made sure of that. He typed and deleted a dozen responses, apologies, excuses, explanations. But what could he possibly say? That he was sorry, that he'd meant to give it all back someday, that he loved her. None of it was true. And even if it was too late. David deleted his response and set the phone down. Through the thin motel walls, he could hear a TV playing. Someone was watching the news. And in viral news today, a woman reclaimed 12 properties from her husband after discovering he'd forged her signature to transfer her inheritance. Even the news had picked up the story. He was now a national symbol of greed and betrayal. A cautionary tale parents would tell their sons, don't be like David. Outside, rain began to fall. David lay back on the lumpy motel bed and stared at the water-stained ceiling. Everything he'd built, the reputation, the respect, the lifestyle, had been a house of cards, and Emily had been the foundation holding it all up. Now she'd pulled that foundation away, and he was left with nothing but rubble and regret. 3 months later, the rainy season had passed, and the sun shone bright over Emily's compound. The children's laughter filled the air as they played in the garden, the same garden where Emily had been kneeling the day Avery came to mock her. But now the garden had expanded. New flowers bloomed along the pathway. The fence had been repainted. The house itself looked renewed, vibrant, alive. Emily stood on her veranda, watching her eldest daughter, Grace, chase her younger brothers around the mango tree. The joy was pure, untainted by the drama that had unfolded months ago. She'd protected them from the worst of it, explaining simply that Daddy made some mistakes and now Mommy is fixing things. They'd adjusted better than she'd expected. Children were resilient that way. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. David hadn't contested it. He couldn't. The evidence was overwhelming. His lawyer had advised him to accept the terms quietly. He'd walked away with nothing but his personal belongings and a mountain of debt from loans he'd taken to maintain his fake lifestyle. Emily had heard through village gossip that he was living with a cousin in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment, doing odd jobs to survive. Avery had moved to another state. Her social media accounts deleted. Her phone number changed. She'd vanished like smoke. Her dreams of mansions and luxury evaporated. Emily felt no satisfaction in the downfall, just relief that the chapter was finally closed. "Mama," Grace called out, running up to the veranda. "Uncle Alexander is here." Mr. Alexander's car pulled into the compound, and the lawyer stepped out with his familiar briefcase and warm smile. Behind him was a younger woman carrying a folder. "Emily, good afternoon," Mr. Alexander greeted. "I brought the final documents for you to sign." They sat in the parlor, the same room where Emily had once signed papers without reading them, trusting a man who didn't deserve it. But now she read every word, every clause, every detail. "These are the deeds for all 12 properties now legally and irrevocably in your name alone," Mr. Alexander explained. "No loopholes, no vulnerabilities. Your inheritance is secure." Emily signed each document carefully, then looked up at the lawyer who'd become a friend. "Thank you, Mr. Alexander, for everything. You did the hard part, Emily. You were patient when others would have acted rashly. You were strong when others would have crumbled." He smiled. "Your father would be proud." After Mr. Alexander left, Emily walked through her compound, past the children playing, past the garden to the back where a new structure was being built. Construction workers hammered and measured, bringing her vision to life. The sign was already painted and waiting to be installed. Strong Women's Center, empowerment through knowledge. She decided to turn one of the reclaimed properties, not the mansion on Magnolia Street, but a smaller building in town, into a resource center for women. A place where they could learn about land rights, inheritance laws, financial literacy, a place where they could meet with free legal advisors, a place where no woman would suffer in silence the way she had. The mansion on Magnolia Street, she'd sold it. The money went into a trust fund for her children's education and the Strong Women's Center operating costs. She didn't need a mansion to prove her worth. She had something far more valuable: her dignity, her land, and her freedom. That evening, as the sun set in brilliant oranges and purples, Emily's mother-in-law, David's mother, came to visit. The older woman's eyes were red from crying. "Emily, my daughter, I am so ashamed," she whispered. "I raised that boy better than this. I don't know what happened to him." Emily took the woman's hands gently. "Mama, you're not responsible for his choices. You raised him with good values. He chose to abandon them. Can you ever forgive him?" Emily was quiet for a moment, watching her children play. "I've forgiven him, Mama. Not because he deserves it, but because I deserve peace. Anger would only poison my own heart." She smiled softly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean allowing him back into our lives." The older woman nodded, understanding. She blessed Emily and the children before leaving, her shoulders heavy with a mother's grief. That night, after the children were asleep, Emily sat alone on her veranda. The compound was quiet except for crickets and the distant sound of night birds. She thought about the journey, the betrayal, the shock, the decision to fight back, the victory. An old proverb her father used to say came to mind: "A tree that stands on truth cannot be shaken by the winds of lies." She'd stood on truth, and she was still standing. Somewhere in the city, the storytellers were already turning her story into a folktale, a cautionary tale about greed and deception. Yes, but more importantly, a story about a woman's quiet strength, about patience, about knowing your worth. Future generations would hear it. The story of Emily who waited for the right moment, who fought with wisdom instead of anger, who reclaimed not just her property, but her dignity. And they would learn what she had learned. That what you build on lies will crumble, but what you build on truth will stand forever. Emily looked up at the stars, feeling her father's presence in the cool night breeze, and smiled. The harvest had come and it was sweet. What lesson from Emily's story touched your heart the most? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when everyone doubted you? Drop your thoughts in the comment below. And if this story blessed you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We have more powerful stories coming your way. To my loyal family, thank you for staying with us. Until next time, remember your dignity is priceless. Never let anyone steal it. Thank you for watching. We cherish you.